acreditamos que é fundamental que todos nasçam livres. Todo menino, toda menina. Liberdade faz a gente pensar em autonomia, independência, no direito de agir conforme a própria
And the right
vontade.
to work according to our own will. But what will is this? What do we want for real? Will our wills and our dreams in line with the future that we want for us? When was it that the prosperity of our species started to risk the survival of others? And even ours. And what prosperity is this that where many people live in extremely vulnerable conditions? We lose a lot whenever we have floods in our cities, fires destroying our forests. This way of fighting and looking at nature threatens all the biodiversity and our own survival. It seems we are the species that is not in harmony with the others. Why? Because we are stuck to a lifestyle that brings risk to our home, our lives. That's why we need to think better about what it means to have freedom. Let's be free all the time to change directions and build new ways. The challenges are many, I know, but the good news is that there are many people showing where to go, people eager to promote a big change in our society. We are talking about researchers, governors, young leaderships and traditional people, and also companies, associations, collective groups. Because to build this new pathway, we need to count on everyone. We need to have partnerships and attempt to science and hear the traditional people and hear the voices of everyone. My voice, yours too. This is how we'll find the way out to our challenges. We need more and more dialogue, diversity, and cooperation. So come, let's sum up our knowledge and creativity to develop together for a more prosperous future to everyone. Saving the nature is saving ourselves. We need it to prosper. Here we have experienced and young people everywhere with different knowledges, everyone working on the same questions. What is the pathway to follow for the future that we truly want? You are free to plant the seeds of the future and to do so today. So come. Hello, everyone. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. This meeting is a pleasure to meet you so that we can open the seminar Seeds for the Future partnership with the Museum of Tomorrow, Conservação Internacional. And I greet Mauricio, that is a partner for a long time in all the great causes, right, Mauricio? Welcome. And I would like to start saying that I have to mention all my feelings due to the pandemic and this tragedy, especially in Brazil, that is close to 400,000 deaths due to a pandemic with a series of deficiencies in management of this pandemic in Brazil. I would like to say that this pandemic is nothing more than a sign of nature in this relation with it. From the scientific definition that this pandemic came from a biophysical And nothing prevents us from facing new pandemics in the future. That's why we say here that the seeds that we are planting today with this debate, with new leaderships, will open a dialogue, a debate, a reflection on how we treat nature and how we are relating with it and how we relate to ourselves. There is no how to think about our tomorrow and what are the possible tomorrows if we don't have clear information of quality based on scientific information to decide our reflections and the ways to follow. In Museu da Manhã, we say that we have sustainable bases so that we can define possible tomorrows. And in this sense, is why we are here along with the Conservação Internacional, with young leaders that are debating in these meetings and today on the leadership and mediation of Miguel Moraes, so that we can learn from these young leaderships and interact with the more experienced leaderships and those on the traditional basis and scientific leadership, so that we can, in this sense, define the choices we'll make for this better tomorrow that we wish. Therefore, we understand that this is the way, the pathway to follow. We need debate and dialogue with no prejudice, open dialogue, but always based on real and concrete and scientific information. I think this is the way to follow. And we are working this way for more than 6 years in Museu da Manhã, offering this dialogue and debate for science to scientists and partner institutions, so that we can have our window to spread scientific ideas in the best way possible. In this sense, we are gathered here today along with Conservação Internacional and all the partners supporting the maintenance of Museu da Manhã with all the difficulties, may it be economical or financial, everything we face along with the city management that we had in the past, but also facing the difficulties of the pandemic, that after many efforts made us to close doors last year. Then we reopened with another feeling, another hope, so that we could have better scenarios. Unfortunately, we have a new wave and we had to close again in the beginning of March. And if everything goes well and the scenarios get better to the end of the month, we'll reopen to the audience on May. But we'll go on with this debate on the internet with partners like Conservação to contribute to this debate, especially today, that is the Earth Day, a day of reflections, to know what are our guidances, the values that we miss in our lives, and the standard of consumption and quality that we want to have for the balance and harmony with nature, that is our greatest will. So I thank you all for your presence. I wish you a good debate with a lot of energy and the energy of the youngsters, so that we can, in fact, envision a better tomorrow. Mauricio, I pass on the floor to you. Thank you, Piquet. Thank you for the presence of those following us here. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. There is audio description if you need, and we have Lobianco. I am Mauricio Lobianco, Vice President of Conservação Internacional Brasil. I'm wearing a white t-shirt today, and well, today at Conservação Internacional, we're quite happy to promote this event with Museu da Manhã today, the Earth Day, a day that was created in 1970 to promote awareness on the impacts of the human being and nature and the importance of conservation and development in a sustainable way. Today, we are facing a global pandemic with no precedents and recurring environmental catastrophes and things that we feel on the planet, like a drought and scarcity of food, reaching especially the most vulnerable people. It's about time for us to reflect on the values of nature to society, so that together we can have better transformation so that we can reach the future we want. And this is what the seminar Sementes of the Future proposes, to know and share different views on nature and show solutions for a better and healthier solution, a fair solution, and more prosperous to everyone. It's been 30 years in Brazil since Conservação Nacional has been using policies and science to conserve nature that people depend on to have food, water, and the way of living. With our partners, we work to have a really sustainable development to everyone and also for climate balance. This climate crisis that we are facing is proving that the possible solutions to mitigate the effects of that are in nature. The solutions to conserve biodiversity and the forests demand concrete actions contributing to at least 1/3 of that to minimize the negative effects of climate changes. It's urgent to have this debate, and this is what Sementes para o Futuro proposes, to have a sustainable economy based on areas of great importance to people and nature. All that is a positive agenda to implement public policies, and in the end, it is the long-term impact that we aim. At Conservação Internacional, we believe that we can change the future when we empower forests and bioeconomy and spread the areas protected and protect the traditional people and foment aware consumption. So we need to create financial models to promote sustainable production. And if you believe we are talking about plants and animals and biodiversity, it's not that. We are talking about employment and health and safety. At last, we are talking about welfare of people. We are talking about our future as humanity. We need to develop on that in global cooperation to reach a fair future and a more sustainable one to everyone. So this is the message of Sementes do Futuro for these 2 days of event. The problem that we have in this event today is it started many months ago by the teams of Conservação Nacional and Museu da Manhã. On one side, it was the central exploration of Museu da Manhã, looking at the era of human beings, the planet, and its consequences and its choice. And on the other hand, due to a book created by Conservação Internacional called The Future Beyond the Landscape that will launch next month, that is on the 30 years of celebration of Conservação Brasil. It proposes a discussion on nature conservation in a country with a time cut on the process of the democratization, the middle ages to today, with an integrated approach, and the process has human welfare in the center, along with social and the traditional way of communities living and biodiversity and the ecosystem. These two intentions are together, along with the spirit of scientific disclosure, innovative solutions from nature that we have in our DNA, both in Museu da Manhã and international conservation. So this is the beginning of Sementes para o Futuro, Seeds for the Future. To start this exchange of knowledge on nature, we'll see the message of Thomas Lovejoy exclusively for this event today. Lovejoy is known as the godfather of biodiversity. He is responsible for creating the term of biological diversity in 1980. And on behalf of the voice of experience of those who are contributing to science and conservation of nature for more than 62 years, here, Professor Lovejoy on the value of biodiversity.
Bom dia a todos. E muito obrigado para a honra e o convite de bater papo para Sementes para o Futuro. When I first set foot in the Amazon rainforest in 1965, I had never seen a tropical rainforest before. I was excited, but immediately puzzled. Where was all the biodiversity? It just seemed like a lot of green and a lot of humidity. And then my eye became accustomed, and I began to discern more different kinds of green than I had ever imagined existed. And then my eyes detected the multiplicity of small things, of insect life, the ants and the butterflies. And then I began to hear the various sounds, including bird songs, even though I couldn't see the birds themselves. There was always something new. That's a consequence of having so many different kinds of things that you never really know what might pop up that you've never seen before. And so, more than 50 years later, I was walking in to Camp 41. And Camp 41 is my favorite camp at the Forest Fragments Project north of Manaus, which we started in the very late 1970s to try and understand what happens when you basically fragment a forest. And it's been running ever since, and we've had, hundreds and hundreds of graduate students get their degrees, at least half of whom are from Brazil. And it's turned out to be not only a great source of science, it's been a great source of understanding about how to manage the forest. It's been a great way to train future generations and to bring people, the so-called decision makers, to actually come and see and experience what a forest is all about. In any case, so I'm walking in, it's sort of late in the day, so the light is a little approaching dusk. And I see, out of the corner of my eye, I see something fluttering. And I think, oh, it must be a morpho butterfly, that gorgeous electric blue butterfly, so characteristic of those forests. And I took a few more steps, and then I realized, no, it wasn't flying like a morpho butterfly flies. It was much more floppy. So I took another look, and it was very pale and it was very big. I followed it until it landed on a tree trunk. And there it was really big, it was like that. And I realized I had seen for the first time myself what is known as the white witch, or bruxa branca, which is the largest moth in South America, which, despite being the largest moth, is so rare that nobody has ever been able to identify its caterpillar. That's what the biodiversity of the Amazon rainforest is like. It's always providing new insights into nature and natural history and biodiversity. In 1965, there were only 10 million people in the entire Amazon, and only one highway from Belém to Brasilia. And I remember people remarking with great surprise about the spontaneous colonization that was going on along the highway, which of course has been the pattern anytime anybody's built a highway ever since in the Amazon. Those highways and other infrastructure have actually been quite destructive of the forest. In the 1970s, the Brazilian scientists, led by Enéas Solati, from the south of Brazil at the time, demonstrated the hydrological cycle of the Amazon basin and the Amazon forest, which indigenous peoples sort of intuitively understood just from watching the moisture sort of come up out of the forest canopy after a rainfall. That was nailed down incontrovertibly by Enéas Solati, by doing scientific measurements of the rainwater from the Atlantic to the Peruvian border. And he demonstrated without any question that the Amazon makes half of its own rainfall. He shattered the global paradigm which believed that vegetation was simply the consequence of the climate and had no influence on it whatsoever. Well, that paradigm lay shattered in multiple shards and has given us a different understanding about how the biology of the planet interacts with the physical environment, and in particular, of course, about the Amazon, because the question is, how much deforestation would cause that hydrological cycle to get to the point where it no longer could produce half of the rainfall? And that's all because the trees transpire through the leaves, and there's also a lot of evaporation off the complex surfaces of the forest itself. And when you don't have the leaves in the trees, you don't get the recycling. The point at which that might be undercut by deforestation seems so far away that we didn't actually spend a lot of time worrying about it. But since then, not only has there been a lot of deforestation, but other factors have arisen which interact with the deforestation, one of which, of course, is climate change, and another of which is extensive use of fire. That has brought the whole system to a point at 20% deforestation, where it is close to a tipping point where there's just will be insufficient rain in the south and east of the Amazon to support an actual rainforest. And the vegetation will convert to savanna-like vegetation, or maybe even something drier. So that would have huge consequences for central Brazil in particular, and agriculture in central Brazil, but actually every country in South America except for Chile, which lies behind the high wall of the Andes. So it's a big continental environmental issue. And happily we understand enough about it to know that if we do some reforestation, we can build back the margin of safety and avoid that tipping point with all the negative consequences that would follow. The solution actually is very simple. Just do reforestation, but encourage more trees and more forests so that they can do the transpiration and evaporation that feeds the hydrological cycle. Some restoration, avoiding destructive infrastructure, and other things that lead to further deforestation. And also look to the forest itself as a source of the economy, a bioeconomy. Because if you really think about it, biodiversity, and of course therefore the Amazon forest, is basically a gigantic library of plant and animal and other species, each of which has solved a series of biological challenges in its life history, any one of which could turn out to be of value in very practical ways to human society. So as you know, out of the Amazon has come cacao. Most of the world has no clue that their insatiable desire for chocolate is being supplied by chocolate which came first out of the Amazon. but also things like rubber, quinine, curare used as muscle relaxants in abdominal surgery. We've just scratched that surface. So in the end, the forest and all that biodiversity is basically a cornucopia of economic potential with possibilities that are really hard to even imagine in advance, and any one of which can be transformational, like the biology that led to the high blood pressure medicine, the ACE inhibitors, which hundreds of millions of people around the world take on a daily basis. And one of the important things to remember is that the indigenous peoples of the Amazon and those that followed, the ones we call the ribeirinhos, because they have adapted to living along the watercourses, know a lot about that potential. They don't know it all, of course, but they know a lot. And so all those people are actually living libraries themselves, and to be really respected and engaged with in exploring a better future. So what is true for the Amazon, of course, is true for the entire planet. And one of the things we are all facing around the world is climate change, which is a gigantic threat, quite urgent, because we really need to stop before we have more than 1.5 degrees average global warming. And it's all driven by excess CO2 in the atmosphere, and some comes from the burning of ancient ecosystems, the fossil fuels, energy trapped by plants, eons ago and now being released in a geological instant. But the lesser part known is there's a tremendous amount of carbon in the atmosphere that comes from the destruction of modern-day ecosystems. So literally, about as much carbon is in the atmosphere from destroyed ecosystems as remains in extant terrestrial ecosystems, which is a pretty shocking statement to make, but it's also one that includes a solution, which is, to the extent that we can restore some of those ecosystems, they can do what they're very good at, which is to pull a lot of that carbon back from the atmosphere as they recover. A lot of people think it's hard to regenerate and reforest in the tropics. And it's not simple, but right here in Rio, not far from this museum, is the Tijuca National Forest. And that is the first tropical reforestation project in the world, at the order of the emperor in the middle of the 19th century. So we know it can be done. We can bring enough back to get a soft landing from the climate threat. And with it will come ecosystem services and restoration of the living library for the life sciences. Here we are at the beginning of 2 days of conversation, Sementes para o Futuro, not only for Brazil, but also for the entire world. I look forward to the results and the creativity this meeting is going to provide for a better future. The Amazon, the living planet, needs you, your intelligence, your commitment, and your energy. Thank you very much.
O microfone está fechado.
Não estou conseguindo ouvir.
Boa tarde, pessoal. Eu sou Miguel Moraes.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Miguel Moraes. I am the director of our program in the Connection International. Thank you very much for the opportunity for being here. Thank you, Professor Lovejoy, for his inspiring message. It was a gift. You know, I'm enchanted by the Amazon forest, especially today, April 22nd, the day that we usually celebrate Earth Day. But with everything that we are facing, we do not have like the proper drive like to celebrate, especially with everything that we want for the future and everything that really matters. How we're going to position ourselves in relation to the future from what we are living. So my role today here is to help connecting perspectives and ideas. So one of the people invited have their own particular history, but also they share like the same vision for the future. So today we are here like to talk about all these ideas that we are sharing in this convergence space that connects all of us. So today we are here to hear the ideas and all the voices that share the same ideas with all of us. They have their opinions about their roles in order to build up this future. And the focus of our conversation today is the value that each culture attributes to the nature, so the relation that people have with nature. So this is our starting point. So we depend on the nature in order to prosper. Our start point is that this conversation and our well-being depends mostly in this individual relation that we have with nature. And I also have a very clear vision of what matters, so any way matters. So we must have this relation with nature, then we are in the right pathway. And then we will hear Amanda's opinion, Marilene, and hopefully like Muká is going to join us and have the opportunity to connect with the internet because he is in his tribe in Acre, and it's raining a lot, and we are trying to bypass the clouds and have this connection. So let's try and hope that you will connect and follow us. So beginning of a conversation, so we will have like a round of introductions, but before the introduction, Amanda and Marilene, let's do a brief description so all of us can have this image of this conversation that we have. We know that people do not notice the world the same way. I will try. I am Moraes. I have 38 years old. My skin is light. I wear glasses. I have tattoos in my arms, and I'm wearing a pink shirt, and I have a bracelet, indigenous bracelet. And I live outside the city of Rio de Janeiro, in the outskirts. So Marilene, so please introduce yourself. So hello, everyone. Good evening. My name is Marilene. So I am from Caravelas, Bahia. And I'm 19 years old, and I'm one of the leaders that with all the procedures that we have in terms of like nature conservancy, my hair is short and curly. I'm wearing a black t-shirt and a band in my hair. And my boyfriend is called Bernardinho. Amanda, please. Hi, everyone. My name is Amanda. I'm 24. And at this moment, I have a ribbon, blue ribbon in my hair, curly hair. I am black. I live in the periphery. I wear glasses. And I have an afro earring that is matching my ribbon. I'm very happy to be here and joining all of you. Just talking a little bit briefly about myself. Currently, I work for the Youth Leaders Organization, but my work is mainly related to the democracy principles. So here in the peripheries of the outskirts of São Paulo. Cool, Amanda, very nice. Thank you, Marilene. So this biodiversity is really important. This is very Brazilian. Amanda is from the outskirts of São Paulo, work with a social program, and Marilene working with extractivism, with a conservancy community. So here I am in the countryside of Rio de Janeiro, and Muká is in the forest in Acre. So let's try and see if we have a video and then we can introduce Muká to all of you. So Muká, let's see. No audio? So to keep our culture alive, our culture, Yawanawá, we do not destroy our nature, our water, because it gives us food, it feeds us, it gives us shelter. And otherwise we will lose everything if we destroy nature. So to keep it alive, we must care. So our role in order to preserve nature is because we know better and because of our tradition. So this is what feeds us. That's why we keep ourselves strong with the strength that nature gives to us. Cool, Muká, very nice. I've had the opportunity to visit Muká and his family in the Matrinchã tribe. They received me very well. And I was very happy recently when I talked to him that he finished one other training stage, like to take over the spiritual position, and that he is learning a lot about medicinal plants. And so anyone who is interested in and develop this kind of knowledge about medicinal plants, this is very nice to know. We thought about asking him to give us his blessing for this incredible conversation that we are having now. But unfortunately, he could not join us. I would like to take this opportunity to share with you that every time that I was there in the territory, I was very impressed with the way that the community engages in the routine on the day-to-day, and they value so much all their culture. So you talk to the young people, and they will take over like political positions as the tribe leaders. Some others, they follow the spiritual path. And so sometimes they have to leave their land to study, but they want to go back to the people and continue with all the teachings that they have there. And they are also facing a very important transformation process, because with the economical cycle, the rubber economical cycle, they had many invasions in their territory from outside people. They could not speak the same language, and they could not practice their own religion. But even though they rediscover and they rebuild and redefine everything from the rescue of the ancestrality and the value of their own culture. So someone told me, like Miguel, that they were losing their indigenous characteristics, but they did not want to be like white people. So they had to rescue this ancestrality. And they could only do that in contact with nature. And what is interesting is that you wake up at 7 a.m., everybody else is already awake. Either they are going to school or working to go to school. So it's very interesting. And it's a shame that he can't be here with us. So hopefully he will join us in the middle of the conversation and participate in this debate, because he would provide us lots of very important information. So let me see if I can fix things here. So let's begin our conversation. We are live, and live is like this. So Marilene, I would like to talk to you because it's very difficult for us that live in the city we get impressed with this work dynamic in the indigenous lands. I know that in your community is everything the same, like people wake up early to work, people wake up early. And not only like to provide all the means like to your family, but all the dynamic and the ecosystem in the reservation. And the relation that the community has with everyone in the shore of the state of Bahia. So before I open to you, Marilene, I know that the Conservation International, we met her in the 90s. So her father was one of the local leaders that won the right to stay there and remain as an activist leader. I believe they were like growing shrimps, and I believe that your father and the whole community just like a struggle like to keep the activity running. So let me ask you, so Marilene, so what would be your life if you did not have this relation with nature? What is the value for you? So firstly, I would like to say that nature is my life. I've said that many times. And so how, if I did not have this relation and this opportunity to be here, how my life would be? I would say that the reservation helps the conservancy of nature. So the way we live, the way we work, the way we grow our food, and so the economy that actually moves everything here. So if we did not have this connection with the community, I believe that maybe if the shrimp farm was outside my community, maybe I wouldn't have the opportunity to go anytime I wanted to my community and visit everything that is related to my childhood and my adult life, because probably things wouldn't be there any longer, because people wouldn't have means like to survive, and like the whole life would be very harmed. And we here like to keep that farm alive. So I believe that everything would be much more difficult. So we live on fishing, and otherwise people wouldn't have the means like to benefit. They would need to learn all the ways to have their income, work in construction, or find other ways in order to survive. And I don't believe that I would want to do something different from what I do. And I believe that all the rights that we have right now in the community, and we believe that we can help each other out. So basically, this is it. And something else that you were saying, I take classes, and the professor was saying, you're talking about lots of different stories, and I said that everything that it comes like from our origins, like the indigenous people, they know like the right moon, like to sow and harvest. They know what kind of plants would grow better, what specific moon phase, and without any second thoughts, like my family is part of the same relation. So I am Black and I'm also Indian because my origins are back, like my ancestors are in the indigenous culture, even though I'm Black. So the way we work, because our family live on fishing, and also we have agricultures. So we know the right moon. We've done a lot of research about medicinal plants, and this is wonderful, like to know, and like the relation. I love it. So I see that in different places and different cultures, the origins are basically the same. So Amanda, as a Black woman, this is wonderful because we can see this relation, because the culture of the Black person and the indigenous culture is also embedded in me. I can feel it both. So I believe that nature brought this to me, and this was the important link. And what connects everything are the situations and all the threats that are very similar that our communities are facing. So they are different, but at the same time, they are pretty much the same. So it seems that Amanda's relation is a little bit different than mine, but in fact, they are the same. Because this is the way that man was relating to nature and everything that they were taking and modifying the nature. And that's why I believe that nature for me means life. So if I need to feed, I go to nature. If I need to work, I go back to nature. So nature is my life, and the most important for my community is nature.
Wonderful. So you were mentioning something that caught my attention, Marilene. Amanda, I kept thinking about what you were saying, and a little bit differently from the situation of Marilene. In your case, people where you work have no access in a balanced environment. Many times they were private from this access. I mean, that Marilene father could reach when he fought for the shrimp farm. There is. They are related to a relation with nature that's completely deteriorated. In many cases, we see people living in under human conditions with no access to sanitation, infrastructure, conditions leading to diseases and mortality. And to be honest, what calls my attention is that people need to deal with that and believe that it's normal when that they will be like us. That's what Marilene said. This Brasility is wonderful, but people that are like us want more freedom from their awful reality, and they have no access to a balanced environment. So could you talk that about it, Amanda, and tell us a little bit of the concept of environmental racism? Because I believe it's completely connected, right? Yes, I would like to start by mentioning that I love this guy. He is wonderful. When many cultural matrices have deals with the earth and we dream with it, so they have the same susceptibility. And we believe that when we reach the point of crisis, we can see two cuts, one of climate justice and one about the environment. Thinking about this fever of the planet, the body is harmed, and all countries, all sectors will be damaged. But some parts of populations will be harmed the most, and in that are the Black women from the periphery, poor, indigenous, living in the countryside from the north and northeast. I mean, the women taking this place in society. When we think about our planet and we see everything that is happening, we feel that we need to go on the streets and do something, because why that the periphery people are so different. When we think about environmental justice, we need to question the social model we live in. We live in a patriarchal system. It's based on oppression, domination, and exploration. So for us to have the world as it is today, some people need to work more, some people need to produce more, and then people that are delivering more, producing more, don't receive. the same point. So when we think that tertiary has people that need to invest 2 or more than 2 hours to reach the working place, we need to change that. When there is rain, there is flood, and how do people get home? And who are the people who lose their homes and the furniture, who suffer from uh, devastation? So they are the poor people. And when we think about deforestation, we have to think about the garbage that it's not discharged in the big centers of the city. So the big dumpsters are in the periphery. The products discharged from the society are in the periphery. So it destroys our ecosystem, and we need to think about this model. If we need to care about our planet, we need to give voice to the people that are in these places, who are the protagonists of that. Because, in fact, for a long time, we had just a small part of the population dominating all states. And this uh, part of the population is that uh, image of the white male dominating everything. So what we want to do is revolutionary, is having Black women bringing knowledge and sharing it in a very democratic way. So to my understanding, this is wow moment. And we need to do that systemically. It's not only a live session that will change our planet, but when we are touched by this knowledge, we start reflecting and thinking and having individual actions and political actions that we reflect
Acho que é
upon.
isso mesmo.
Wonderful,
Por
Amanda. I
exemplo,
believe
a
that's
Amanda
it.
tocou
So,
no assunto da
Marilene,
justiça
Amanda
ambiental.
mentioned
E eu queria te fazer
environmental
uma
justice,
pergunta.
and I would like to
Mas se
ask
você não
a
se sentir à
question
vontade para
to you.
responder, tudo bem, tá bom?
But if you're not
Quando
comfortable to answer
é
that,
cuidado, né? A gente teve
okay.
um
But
acidente
2 years
recentemente aqui
ago,
que
we
resultou
had
na
an
contaminação
accident
do
that's
brasileiro com
not
óleo,
explained,
né? E a
but
gente
which
soube de um,
contaminated
e a gente
our
começou a
shore
entender
with
sobre isso
oil. And
e
we know that the
foi
impact
muito
in
sério,
the
né?
seashore
Eu
in
queria
Bahia
te
was quite
perguntar se
serious.
você tiver
So I
tranquilo
would
para
like
compartilhar com a
to
gente,
know, if
como é
you
que
are
isso
okay to share with
afetou a
us,
relação
how
da sua
it
comunidade
affected
com a
the
natureza.
relation of
E
your
como você
community
se
with
sentiu
nature, and
quando
how
você
you felt
percebeu
when
que
you
o impacto
realized
ia ser significativo
that
para
the
a vida de
impact would
vocês,
be
né? Eu acho que se eu
significant in your
tivesse lá
life.
com vocês, eu tinha me
So I
sentido
believe if I
totalmente
was there with
injustiçado por
you,
ter
I would be
participado pelo
completely
descuido de alguém,
injustice, because I
né?
would be
E
blamed
acaba
for
afetando diretamente
someone being
vocês, a vida de
careless,
vocês, a
and
sobrevivência da
something that
família de vocês. Como
ends
é que
up
foi tudo
affecting
isso para
your
vocês?
life
Como é
and
que você
your
se sentiu,
survival. So how
Marilene?
was that for you? How did you feel, Marilene?
Foi extremamente difícil para a gente. E
Well,
é
it was
que entra mais
extremely
eu
difficult to
falo da
me,
necessidade.
and that's
Se
where we
talvez
come
ela não
to the
tivesse
point
aqui,
of
a gente
necessity.
não teria o
And
conhecimento de saber
probably
as
we
ONGs,
didn't have
né,
the
as
knowledge
empresas que
to
estão dentro da nossa
know
cidade, que
about the
poderiam estar
NGOs and
auxiliando
the
a gente com um
companies in the
problema como
city that
esse,
could be
né?
helping us in a problem
Porque
such as
nesse
this
caso do
one.
óleo,
Because in this case of the
e
oil,
até meu pai, muitos da
uh,
associação
my
se
father, many
voluntariaram,
people in the
foram para as praias,
association
né,
were
para
volunteered
tirar
to
metade
go to the beaches
do
and
óleo,
clean the
né, ou
oil
seja,
from
chegar na areia.
the sea, the
E
oil that
a
was
gente foi
reaching the
tentando de
sand,
alguma forma
and we tried
fazer a
somehow
nossa parte,
to do what we could do,
porque o óleo ele
because
prejudicou não só o rio, mas
the
também
oil
a
harmed not
maré, o rio
only the
enche, né?
sea
A maré
life,
enche e acaba afetando
but
nosso meio também.
the
Então, ele
waves
foi
and the tide and everything was harmed. So
e aí, o que que eu pude fazer como
what
liderança?
I could
Eu
do
pude
as a
ver, né, os
citizen,
meios
I could
para poder
see
ajudar as pessoas da
the
comunidade,
means to
porque,
help
querendo ou
people
não,
in the
a
community,
pesca fechou, a
because
pesca
one
paraguaia
way or
fechou,
the
a pesca
other,
do
we
peixe
could see
fechou.
that they
Então,
couldn't fish
a nossa sorte,
anymore,
né,
they
que a minha
couldn't work.
comunidade era
So
muito
we
volta
were
da pesca
lucky that
prosperidade.
our community also
Então,
did
eles tiveram várias outras formas
fast.
para tentar
So there were
ajudar,
another
né,
ways of
na
trying to
renda da
help
família,
them
para
have
a
some
família. E
income
aí, o que
to
aconteceu?
their
Para
family.
ajudar um pouco
So
o
what
pai, a nossa
happened was
associação,
that to help a little more,
ela se
our
movimentou
association
a partir de cestas básicas.
uh,
Inclusive, eu ainda estou até conversando
collected
para poder continuar com
donations
essa
of
questão do
food
crédito,
so that
né?
we
Porque com a
could
perda da pandemia está
deliver
ficando
that to
cada dia mais
people
difícil.
because they were
E
in need of
aí,
that.
o que
And
que eu
now,
fazia? O que
due to the
aconteceu?
pandemic, we
Eu,
still do that.
não
And all that
não
happened
faço mais
because
licenciamento de
I
caranguejo, né? Não estou lá dentro da comunidade,
I am not there in the community. I don't have the benefits of selling crabs and so on. I live to study. And today I know that I'm not working with that, but if I need to work with crabs, I can do that. And I have a cousin that does that. And I can tell you that women are much more aware of the things of what to do. They are much more hands-on than men. And I remember that she was working, but her name was not in the list. She lost her work and her name was not in the list. And I said, okay, so what I'll do is that I'll share my donations with you because I live alone, you have your kids, so it will help you. And then I remembered that it helped us if we didn't have the group here, we would about education and we wouldn't have youngsters like me and others to represent the group and search for knowledge. And I would like to make the opportunity to comment on Amanda's speech because when she said, when she talked about the periphery and her environment, it's quite similar to mine. I have access to my community, to nature and everything, but I can also see that the the neighborhood where I live is also a very peripheric neighborhood. The city of Caravelas has a lot of people who are afraid of going on the street. Uh, we have only one movie theater that is not good. My father's house has trouble hide because it comes quite close to the entrance of the house. A lot of people suffer with flooding. So once again, I can see that although I am distant, I live that, I am in that environment. That is my reality. And this is the reality of many other people thinking that, oh, come on, what do I have to do with that? Why do I need to worry about nature if I live in here very well? Yes, you do, because one way or the other, things are completely connected in the world. And when it happened and we need to deal with that, we had to stop fishing. We couldn't eat mainly because there were even diseases in the fish. We couldn't eat them anymore. So it was too much for us. And it was very difficult because we couldn't cope with our culture. And it's very difficult for us to have the right of living our lives, and we don't do that. So this happens just because we are one step behind the people that have the benefits of policies. And what happens is that at that point, oil arrived, the waste arrived, the pandemic arrived, and with the pandemic, we can see that problems happen in the big cities and in small cities. And in small cities, the impacts, like, for example, the oil in the river or the waste and so on, it was such a huge impact that people had nothing to do. We couldn't even explain what would our lives be if we couldn't work and survive. I can't imagine what my father, my mother, or what I would be living with. Probably, as you mentioned, it was only one accident, but maybe it was intentional. We don't know. So somehow it could be promoting people who are above, economically speaking. And Marilene, how did you deal with this feeling of injustice and keep up struggling for a better future? Because I know you are completely engaged politically speaking. You mentioned three different occupations that you have, like you fish, you work with agroforest, and you are an eyebrow designer, and whatever way you take it. So where does your strength come to overcome this injustice feeling and fight for a better future for your community, Marilene?
Primeiro de tudo, eu começo com uma
Well, first
pessoa
of all, I
que até
start
hoje eu tenho muito contato
with
com
a
ele. O
teacher that I have
professor
a lot of
Ele
contact
é
with,
um professor
Professor
da
Ruben.
Universidade de Verinhas, né? Hoje
He
ele não
is
está tendo na
from
escola onde eu
our
estudei, hoje não está
community.
tendo mais aula.
The
Só
school
que
where I studied
ele
has no
começou com
classes
a ideia,
anymore,
porque
but he
a
started
nossa
with this
escola é perto de
idea
uma praia que tem dentro da minha comunidade.
because
Essa escola
our
é da minha
school was
comunidade,
close to a
a escola
beach,
Menino
and it's
Jesus.
a
E aí a
community
gente
school,
começou a fazer
School Menino Jesus.
limpeza de praia,
And
que
he
a
started
galera ia
cleaning
pra praia e deixava
the
sujo.
beach, and
E aí o que
people would
aconteceu?
go to the
Ele
beach and
sempre,
leave
né,
their
fez
garbage there.
essa escola
So he has
me
always
ajudou
been
a
working
reconhecer dentro da
on
minha
that
comunidade,
and
né? Me
working
ajudou a
that,
tirar o
and it
pensamento
helped
de
me
crescer,
acknowledge myself in
estudar
my
e ir embora.
community, and
Então,
it
o que
disturbed
me ajudou
my
de verdade
thoughts
foi
of
lembrar
studying,
que
growing
quando
up, and
eu
living in the
ia fazer a
community.
limpeza de
So it was
praia e fazia
good
a minha
because
parte,
I
deixava tudo
remember
pra
that
limpo,
when
eu
I was
chegava e
there
tava tudo
cleaning the
bonito, e
beach
eu
and
curtia a
leaving
praia,
my
eu
own
me sentia
space
bem,
clean
né?
for
Foi
me to
aquilo que
enjoy
fez.
later
Aí eu
on,
chegava na minha praia,
it was always on
nossa,
my mind. So when I
porque
arrived
as
into the
pessoas
beach
fazem
and I
isso,
said,
né?
wow,
E eu não
that's so
sabia
good.
como me
Why do
levantar.
people do
E essa
that?
ideia
And
surgiu
I
e
couldn't
esse
know
processo
what to do.
me
So
ajudou a
this
entender.
idea
Faça a sua
appeared
parte como ser
and
humano.
teacher
Faça a parte
inspired
como
us.
pessoa.
He always said, do
Né?
your part,
Você
do
conseguir
what you can
levantar,
for your
mas também você não
community.
pode pensar,
For
mas
you
fulano está
to
fazendo a parte
raise,
dele.
you do your part.
Ele está
But
ganhando
but
dinheiro, por que eu tenho que
the
limpar?
other one is not doing their
Entendeu?
part. Okay, but do
Porque
yours.
sempre foi assim. Sempre.
It has
Faça a
always
sua
been
parte, dê o
like
seu melhor
this.
em tudo que você for
You
fazer.
do your part,
Igual, por
do your
exemplo, já
best,
tive
whatever you are
oportunidades
doing.
de
So,
que
for
eu não
example, I
consegui
had
fazer isso.
opportunities in
Você
which I
trabalha
couldn't
fazendo
work with
design,
the
desenhando
eyebrow
coisas,
designing. I
e
didn't
aí eu
have
pensei,
any
ok,
work. I
pedi
was living alone, and
ajuda,
what
traz os
did
canetinhos
I do?
menores que não vai
I
dar para
asked
fazer a
my
venda para
brother
ele,
to
porque eu
bring
vou
the crabs
quebrar.
to me
Eu
because I
levei
will
aquele,
work with that.
fiquei o dia todo quebrando aquele
And I
canetinho.
was there
Aí
all day
no
long
final do
working
dia,
with
eu
that
consegui,
and
sabe
uh,
quanto? R$ 20.
managing the
Mas
crabs.
salvou o
And
dia.
in the
Mas
end,
eu vi o
I
quanto
could
aquilo fazia
manage
a
to
parte
have
dele na
20
vida da
reais,
minha
and it saved
família,
my days. I know I was
tendo que
very
trabalhar,
tired. I was
entendeu? E
exhausted, but
muitas vezes
working
a
all
gente
day long
não tem
and
o devido,
feeling that many times
não
I
tem
don't have
o devido conhecimento, entende?
the proper
Então
knowledge
foi
to
daí que
do
eu
things.
comecei a
So
levantar a minha
that's why
cabeça em qualquer
how I
situação.
started
Já tive momentos
thinking
de
of
recaída,
being up high in any situation and
frustração,
doing my
entendeu?
best.
Mas graças a Deus, todas essas coisas que eu
So
já
thank
passei,
God,
todos esses
everything
trabalhos
that I
dele,
had to face
desde
in
os
my
meus
life,
20
all the
até hoje, os meus
problems,
19,
since I
entendeu?
was
Me
a
fez sempre
teenager,
poder levantar a
it
cabeça e
all
pensar,
made
vou fazer
me
a minha
feel
parte e
proud
quando
and
for o
say, I'll
caso,
do
vou
my
agir,
part
né,
as a
como
human
eu
being.
agiria
I
se
will
dependesse de
work
mim.
the way I would work, regardless.
I believe that I will lose her because she's frozen, but this is what integrity is. So this is it. And I was thinking here, Amanda, while Marilene gets back. So at the end of the day, so nature in its preserved environment, it works as a cushion. You see that when Marilene could not work, and then she goes back to nature and she can actually harvest her sustain, but not everyone has nature preserved next to their homes, and then they have to look for survival. So your environment in which you are used to working and providing support to everyone, so many times, so the environment is deteriorated. So how do we rescue this connection with nature in environments that have been so transformed and changed? So is it possible like to rebuild meaning? So what can be done in order to bring nature again, like to the core of the people's balance? So because, you know, when they have a problem, they go to nature. But if I have no nature, so who am I going to call for help? So if who is going to provide help me? Can you give me some example how nature promotes like the well-being for communities?
Não tô te ouvindo, Amanda.
Eu não estou conseguindo ouvir.
Estava de microfone mutado. Ainda não tô te ouvindo.
Não ouvi ainda.
Tente formatar seu áudio enquanto eu e Marilene continuamos nossa conversa aqui.
So try to reformat your audio. So Marilene and I will continue talking, and then I will go back to you. So I was talking to Amanda, Marilene, that it's important to have discussion. That when you don't have like the work that I could work with the eyebrows, you can go back to fishing. So imagine for people in communities that do not have a second option, that cannot count on discussion, and then you just like trip and you fall. So it's important that you can count on this nature support. I was asking about her community, if people, what people do when they do not have this cushion. So let's see if her audio is back.
Não te escuto.
No, we can't hear you.
Te vejo, mas não te escuto.
I can see you, but I can't hear you.
Bom, enquanto a gente volta com a Amanda,
So meanwhile, so we have time to talk a little bit more, Dr. Marilene. I would like to invite you to tell us a little bit and share with us. So how do you see future? You mentioned like very interesting ideas about the nature's role for your community and your family. How was the history of community and your trajectory? And then when you stop and you look ahead and you look towards the future, so how is this future ahead of you that you can foresee? How can you reach this future? How nature can help you in this pathway? So what I see, so what I'm looking for is that the youth, not only in our communities, but all the young people can understand that we are truly like the future of this country. Why is that? Because when I go to my community, I am the only one in the family that finished like the high school. And my family is numerous. I'm the only one who reached this level of education. I'm the only one who actually can continue studying. And all these like social issues, I have cousins and that same age, and they are also like facing the same situations indirectly. They come to me and they talk and they say, well, Marilene is there and she's representing us. But what I see when I think about the future is that we have other people that are just like me, that want to fight and they want to reach a different position in life. Because we believe in the community basis, and I say nature, and where I live, like nature is the biggest source of income. Many times when we could not continue fishing, they like the crabs would not reproduce, and then how would we make the money? Because like for my father, he works and he sees and he knows the right day when the crab is mating and reproducing. And when my dad had the training and everything that was given to him, and then he was like teaching others about the crabs. So this helped me like to think the way I think right now, because there was no one better like to show that to us. In order to have like a good impression of the place in which I live, so you have to show that to everyone in detail. So for you to understand the message clearly, so I am the one who needs to be connected, and in order to convey this message. So the future that I have towards the future, that my niece and my nephews, like they grow and they want to continue our fight. What I don't want is that like things change and that the place in which I grew up and like the house where I live, I do not want to see that destroy. I want to see things stronger, and I want to go there and fill the gaps, because I want that my community So people had the need like to move out of the community and go to Caravela. And like during a period of time, especially during the pandemic and like during the oil spill, so they had to look for all the things in order to make their living. So some of the elderly, they have to somehow make do in a different way. So what I see is this, when I think about the future, is that my community looks and continue fighting and understanding what they really want. So some people, they have like dreams that are not real, because if they know, they understand that it's their right as a human being, and if they need to stay there and continue doing what they're doing, it's not me alone that will be able to do that. So when we think about the collective, I am a leader, but I want from the bottom of my heart that 2 years from now, when I leave the association which I belong, I want that I'm another woman, like younger than I am, that takes over the leadership, because I see how women are capable of doing that. And I believe that Amanda is facing pretty much the same thing. So we have like large communities, and we have people that are deeply rooted, that meetings do not solve important issues, but more and more I want to take this out of their mind frame. And this is what I want to do. I teach like women, especially Black women and the young and indigenous populations. So go and fight for and find out, and everything that what is giving in terms of like good to you, because this is your own right. And I see in my community, people say that, oh, if we could have someone to stay with us, like a mate would be so nice. But I believe that like people who live like on the riverbanks and like small communities, and sometimes like they expect that a mayor or one person that will have like basic sewage, and our community doesn't have it. It's an old-fashioned way, and this is what I see, that we must understand that public policies, they must reach us independently from where you are. Cool, Marilene. So I see that Amanda is here with us now. Can you hear us, Amanda? Ah, okay. I joined the meeting again, and I'm back. I was talking to Marilene a little bit, and we have all these challenges, but it was interesting that Marilene talked to us and told us many stories, but I want to go back to you, Amanda. And we were talking about like how we can actually go back to nature. And I want to know people like you that cannot depend on nature. And I've asked 2 questions that I will share with you that people sent to us, like Amanda. So if my audio goes bad again, okay, let's see what happens. So when we think about people that do not have access to nature, so we had many problems. So it's an eco-anxiety. This is how we call it. So this is related to all the environmental and cultural issues, like the fire, burnings, and everything that is happening in the Amazon. And also this lack and this absence to be participating and go back to nature. So there are challenges that come to us and may affect us in the long run. So the thing is, we will find alternatives in order to compensate these difficulties. And then we find out what we need to do. And sometimes we have to find solutions in the place in which we are living. So, and I was talking about the role that like individual conditions, collective conditions, and political conditions. So individually, like we breathe in, and what can you do? And we have to look to the place in which you are currently living. And then you have like your own little plants, and then you can cultivate like tea. And then when you want to have a cup of tea, or if you are like me and you don't take care of your own garden, but like my mom always complained about that. But individually, this is how we move forward. But then we think about the collective situations, like from the moment that you understand this individual condition, and then you look to your community and you see what you can do and what you can give to other people in terms to provide access to knowledge, and all the people will understand the benefits of these other solutions. But like we have to promote this transition somehow, and get in touch with some organizations or schools and understand about like weather changes and environmental questions. And there are some associations that we can get in touch with, and some of these schools, they publish and they have studies and information that we can learn about it. And the most fun part of it is that you roll up your sleeves and then like you plant a little seed, but this is not enough. You see, we have to look at the political situations also, because individually is one thing. When we think about the collective solutions, we are creating an impact for the group, my community. But politically speaking, then we can give scale to it. We can expand and to the whole state, and then employ like a policy for everyone. And then we can participate in all the public consultations, and we can occupy this space in such a way that will transform the situation of everyone. And this is how we are going to fight all the challenges and all the difficulties that come from nature. And this will increase the power of mobilization from our community. And then we will raise the voice of the community. So the community, it's not like charging everyone, but you have to do your own part. From the moment that we have a society that is engaged, and you have a group that is coherent, and together we are looking at the problems, and then we understand our social vulnerability, and we know what we have to do. So very interesting, very nice. It was like a lecture. So we have interesting people sending like nice messages using the chat. I have two questions here. So in terms of like Cristiano Lacerda and Amanda Nunes, that people are impressed with the work that you do.
So they make a question that I think is wonderful. What are the actions that you're planning after the pandemic? Because after the pandemic, there will be a reconstruction work that is very important, and more than ever, nature will be mandatory. Despite all the problems of the pandemic. So she asks about the communities, your communities, companies and NGOs supporting the work. Before the pandemic, would there be this presence of organizations supporting your work? So tell us. Well, there is, but only a few NGOs, and I'm talking about the context of São Paulo, where I'm inserted, that are organized by youngsters. Generally, the places bringing more youngsters are groups, collective groups or social projects And it's very difficult
quando
to
ainda não
have
está
funding and resources
institucionalmente,
when you are not
burocraticamente,
institutionally and
dentro da lei,
bureaucratically
assim, dentro desse meio
uh,
político.
complying with
E
the
existem
law and the
organizações,
policy.
existem iniciativas, mas
So
não
there
conseguem
are
ter essa
organizations,
estrutura.
there are
E geralmente,
initiatives,
quem está
but
nesses
not
cargos de
working
tomada
that
de
good.
decisão
And
das próprias
generally, the
organizações da
decision
sociedade civil
makers,
é aquela mesma parcela que eu
they
mencionei
are
no
the
começo da conversa.
same
Homens
the
brancos, héteros,
political
cisgêneros,
people, I
ricos
mean,
e velhos, que
white,
decidiram
hetero,
encerrar a vida fazendo uma ação
they
social.
are always the
Não
same,
existe
doing the
essa
same, and they
por isso que a
pretend
gente
not
tem
to have social
diversidade de
discrimination
fala, a
and
gente
so
tem a
on. But we
diversidade das
need
ações. A gente precisa
diversity in
criar
speech and
lugares
actions
inclusivos para
so
que a
that we can
maioria
create
seja ouvida.
inclusive
Eu acho que
places
uma
where our youngsters
enquanto
are
eu
heard.
estou
I
participando
think it's
de uma
funny
reunião de
when
palestra, que eu
I
acho super
am
jovem,
giving
né?
a
Porque
speech or
acredito que a nossa
someone, and
política
I'm talking
brasileira,
to one of the
geralmente
youngsters
eles
and
têm de 15
discussing
para
our
29 anos, e
policies.
essa
And
representação
according to our law,
geralmente são
youngsters are from
29.
19
E
to
aí,
29 years,
25, não, mas eu
25
trabalhei
years
há
old.
mais tempo, eu também estou nesse meio.
And sometimes we hear people say, "No, but I'm a youngster for longer time. I know that better than you." And I said, "Hey, come on, what is that?" So we need the real youngsters to take this place because when we start the debate, we can
Para nossa geração, a gente tem esse olhar
develop
que
public
inclusive
policies to our
tudo
generation.
não é
We
uma
have
coisa,
the
ah,
look of
estou
those
aqui
who
analisando essa parcela da
study,
população. Não,
those
no meu
who
caso eu estou vivendo,
analyze
eu
what's
vivo
going on, but more than that, people who are living
são
that.
pessoas mais experientes do que
So
eu,
we
com
understand we have more
mais altos
experienced
perfis
people
políticos
than me,
e
for
querem advogar.
example,
Essas pessoas são muito
who
bem-vindas,
want to work.
mas é
And
muito
these people
importante
are
que essas
very
mesmas
much welcome,
pessoas
but it's very
façam um
important for
trabalho de
these people
autorreflexão para
to
entender que às vezes é necessário
reflect
ceder
and
algumas
understand that
cadeiras.
sometimes
A juventude tem essa
it's
tendência
important to
de
give
ter
space because
alegria, de bora
youngsters
fazer
are
dar
always
certo.
very
E as pessoas
energetic
mais velhas
and happy
têm o seu
and
perfil,
believe
e querem a
everything
tecnologia para
do
ajudar
right.
na tomada de
But the
tomada de
oldest,
decisão.
they
Agora
have the
imagine você
resources, they
ajudando aí
have
as
the
pessoas
decision-making
mais
process.
experientes fazer
So we need to
parcerias
include
geracional
these more important,
da mesma
experienced
e
people
contribuir para a
together
consciência
with the
pública
youngsters
para que a gente
to work
consiga fazer
side by
desse lugar
side
inclusivo
so
e
that we can
participativamente.
foment this
Mas para
place
que isso
in a sustainable way. But for that to happen, we need to give up spaces.
Muito legal,
Wonderful,
concordo totalmente.
Amanda,
Tem
very
muito
nice. I
legal
totally
aqui.
agree with
Até
you.
minha
There
mãe
are
tá
lots
mandando
of
mensagem aqui
wonderful
dizendo obrigado,
messages
Amanda.
here. Even my mother is
Só falo,
commenting,
minha
saying,
mãe.
"Thank you, Amanda, very clear. It's very touching." Well, this is my mother. She's participating here.
sua mãe é maravilhosa, adorei.
Your mother is wonderful. I loved
Conta pra
it.
gente como é que é o
So,
futuro
Amanda,
desse
tell us,
projeto, Amanda. A
what is
Marilene
the future that you
disse pra
see?
gente
Marilene
como é que é o
mentioned
futuro
the
que você
future
enxerga,
as
Amanda.
she sees, but how do you see the future?
Gente, pergunta que vale $1 milhão, né? Quando a gente enxerga
Well, this is a
anos,
$1 million
talvez a
question,
nossa visão
especially in
seja uma
pandemic
curva.
times.
Mas eu
Probably
exercício que eu
we
gosto
are
de fazer
having a
todos os
very
dias é
blurred
fechar meus
view,
olhos,
but
colocar
we
uma
have this
textura assim
exercise every
cinza
day
numa
of
mulher
closing your
brasileira e começar a
eyes and
verbalizar e
putting the
verbalizar
hands in our
fazendo esse
waist,
exercício
just like the
para
Wonder Woman,
convidar
and
todos
thinking about the
os
good
assessores
future.
a fecharem os seus
So
olhos
fun to do
e
that, and we
sonharem.
invite
É super
everyone to
gostoso
close their
deixar
eyes and dream
tomar
about this
parte.
future
Tirem
with
foto.
me. So let's do it. Close your eyes and imagine the future.
No meu futuro ideal,
In my ideal future,
muita natureza. Eu vejo
I see a
casas,
lot of nature, I
pessoas
see
andando,
homes, I
mato,
see
pé
people walking
descalço,
on the
aquele
streets,
cheiro de
and they are
chuva molhada que
walking
sobe.
on the grass
Eu
with
vejo
bare foot, and we
ligação
smell
maior entre
uh,
cidade e
the
natureza.
rain, and we see
E
a
esses
better link
lugares que
between
parecem
city
diversos
and nature as
simplesmente
two
convivem
places that can be
um
diverse but
no
inclusive
outro.
as
Um não
well.
domina o outro,
One
mas os
doesn't
dois
dominate the other,
existem
but
em
both
harmonia. Na
exist
minha
in
visão,
and live in
esse
harmony.
futuro
In my
vai ser
understanding,
periférico,
this
ou
future will be
seja, as
peripheral.
comunidades
That is,
periféricas
peripheral
nada mais do que
communities
esse futuro.
will be part
Na
of this
minha
future.
visão ideal,
In my ideal
ele vai
view,
ter
this
igualdade de
future
gênero, ele vai
will
ser
have
feminista,
gender
no
equality,
sentido de que as
equality,
mulheres vão
feminism, in the
ganhar
sense
os
that
mesmos salários que
women
os
will
homens, a gente
earn
vai
as
ter uma
much as
igualdade
men,
maior
we
na
will have
política,
more
na economia,
equality,
nas
politics,
organizações da
in
sociedade
economy,
civil,
in the civil
Por
society
exemplo,
organizations.
a gente vai ter muitos espaços de diálogo.
Ideally, we'll have a lot of dialogue
Onde o
spaces
governo
and
mais
spaces to
de
live,
para
and
falar
government
das
will invest more
tradicionais, dos
in
povos
call
originários,
traditional
quilombolas, enfim.
corporations and
Porque
original
esse
people,
lugar de abertura
and
para
we'll
construir
have this open place to
inclusivo.
build in an active and inclusive way, in a friendly way.
Os
This is
animais
my
não vão
future.
precisar ficar presos.
Animals won't need to be in cages. We'll have reservoirs where freedom will be lived.
Talvez o meu futuro ele seja pouco
Probably my future will be a little utopic,
que eu acredito
but from
nele
the moment
e que eu
I
acordo
believe
todos os
in
dias
it
para
and I
criar
wake up every morning to
construir
create
ele
the
pouquinho.
future, I build it little by little. But it's not only
Então,
dreaming the future. So I invite
abrir os
all of you here to open your eyes,
mais uma vez,
deeply, take a deep breath once again,
tatuar essa mensagem no seu coração.
and tattoo this message in your hearts.
Se não agora, quando?
If not us, who? If not now, when? We are the ones we were waiting for.
Tô dentro, Amanda. Quero participar desse futuro. Conta comigo, viu? Vamos
Okay, Amanda, count on me to participate on this future. We'll build it together. I really love your future. We are reaching the end, but we still have some points to discuss. I would like to share with you because I love to have this conversation with you, Marilene and Amanda. It was wonderful. And from this conversation today, it's quite clear to me that the more intimate this interdependence relation with nature is, the safer we are regarding our role in the world. And I won't even dare to say that I'm young at the time of this speech because I'm 38, so I'm over 35. I cannot say that I'm young. So let's accept that, right? It's less harmful. So I think it's clear to me that the more intimate, the closest is this relation, the safer we are on the role we play in building the future. And it was also clear, Marilene and Amanda, that youngsters have a lot to say, and we all have a lot to hear, right? When nature provides food and water and medication and even the cultural identity of a people, it is worth more than everything. On the other hand, when we lose this connection, we are stuck in social relations. Our basic needs will start depending on our choices as society. And there is all the vulnerabilities. So the feeling of being in harmony with nature is a freeing feeling. I feel this way when I go to the nature to take some to swim in the river or in the ocean. We need to understand that nature is important and we need to give real support to it. So thought it was nice, Amanda, because you brought a little bit of something that goes along with Article 5 of our Constitution, because it says that everyone is entitled to a balanced environment. It's a common well-being and essential to quality of life, and it's imposed to the public power and to collectivity with the power to defend it, preserve it for the present and future generations. Then, Amanda, you mentioned justice and environmental justice. It has to be in the basis of the project of a more inclusive society. There is no development without justice, equity, diversity, and inclusion. There is no development. There's something else, but it's not development. Today, at this moment, we are living with all the omission and lack of care. This is so harmful as hypocrisy and destruction. And this is a very difficult moment for us. So when we are pointing to each other to build, 4,000 people are dying a day. They are all victims of the denaturalization of humanity. Have we lost the capacity of caring? How much is the green worth? How much is life worth? how much is a smile worth? Marilene, go on.
Eu queria pegar o gancho aqui da
I'm
Amanda,
sorry to
que
interrupt, but I would like to take
da
some
idade
point of
do
Amanda's
vídeo,
speech when she mentions
a gente
age,
até teve um pouco
because
de
we
desconforto, né? Quando a gente criou
felt
Conexão
somehow
Juventude.
uncomfortable when we created Conexão Juventude.
Muitas pessoas sempre quiseram
Many
estar no mesmo apoio,
people
como tem meu
would like
pai,
to support us,
que está na luta com a
like
gente.
Biopark
Tem várias outras pessoas,
and
várias
some
outras
other
referências em vários estados que
institutions
estão
and
aqui da República,
people in different
para
places
ajudar. Só que aí,
wondering to
eu
help
falei,
us.
olha, gente,
But at
Conexão
that point, I was
Juventude
quite clear and said,
é para
hey,
jovens, mas
we
isso não
need
impede que
youngsters,
vocês possam estar no
but
apoio
it
da
doesn't
comunidade.
prevent
O que a
you
gente
to
fez?
give
Os eventos que a
support.
gente fazia, a gente deixava
So
bem à
what we
vontade,
did
sabe?
was,
Os
whenever we
jovens,
want to
né?
do
Os
something,
jovens
we let
conectarem,
everybody
eles
very
poderem, né,
comfortable
ficar à
for the
vontade, porque
youngsters to
coletivo,
connect and feel
o
free,
nosso lado
because when
humano,
they feel
ele fala
free,
mais alto.
their
E aí
human
temos que realmente
size
como objetivo,
is
qual é o
strong.
objetivo, né?
So we need
Colocar
to
lá e
have
tá
a
ali a mão
goal
aberta,
and
porque a gente está
follow this goal,
conseguindo
but
perguntar
in a
para as pessoas que estão
humanized
ali,
way, because
né?
we need to feel
E aí o que
comfortable with
acontece?
people
Quando,
around
por
us.
exemplo, eu tenho que
So
falar
what
na frente do
happens
meu pai, eu tô falando
when
aqui
I have to talk
para
about,
milhares de pessoas,
like, for example, I'm talking here for thousands of people and I'm comfortable here.
porque eu estou à vontade com você.
I know Amanda virtually,
Obrigado,
okay?
É
And
muito mais forte, porque
I feel very
mais
comfortable
jovem,
in this sense
né?
because there
Não
is
é?
a young
Não
black
tem como não se
woman
sentir
here.
confortável. E aí o que
So
acontece?
it's
E
very
aí
difficult
eu
for
fico
me
com
not to feel
vergonha
comfortable in this
de estar
environment.
falando e meu pai tá
But
do lado.
anyway,
E
sometimes
ele é
I
meu pai,
feel
porque ele
ashamed
tem
to
uma
be speaking
necessidade.
here and my
O
father
meu pai
being
é o meu jeito de
beside
me
me.
expressar no
But he is
ambiente.
my father. He needs to
Entende?
understand the
E
way
foi muito
I
dificultoso
express
até a gente
myself. I
conseguir
know it's
mostrar,
difficult
né,
because
para
we
as
speak
pessoas mais
different
velhas que estão há muito
languages
tempo na luta,
up until
entendeu?
we
Que
can
a gente está
show the
querendo
older
produzir,
people that
né?
we are in
Mas
the
porém
same
como
word that
jovens,
we want to
né?
do,
Como
but we are
lideranças jovens, como jovens
we
que
are
estão em
young
busca de trabalho,
leaderships.
de
We are
valorização
in
dos
the
nossos espaços,
industry
entendeu?
looking
E eu
for
vejo muito
work
isso. E
and
eu me senti
fighting for a
chamada,
space. So
porque as
in
demais
Amanda's
comunidades
speech, I
estão
felt
aqui.
quite
Só que aí
represented
depois
because it
você
was
vai
very
saindo e
difficult
vem
for
voltando.
me in the beginning, but
Aí
then we
depois,
could
aí o que
deal
acontece? Eu
with
venho
this
ver muitas outras
idea.
pessoas mais velhas que já estão na
So
luta há
in
muito
this sense,
tempo para dar
what did we
depoimento,
do? We
né?
took the
Para
older
falar da
people who
sua
had
experiência de
experience
vida.
and
Nossa, isso foi
know
maravilhoso. A
the
gente conseguiu fazer
way
uns
to
eventos
talk
muito bem.
about their
E nós só estamos
experiences. I don't
esperando essa
know if it
pandemia
was
acabar
good,
para a
but I
gente conseguir
believe it
retomar
worked. And
com a
we are just
intensidade
waiting
melhor.
for this event to finish to
Bacana
reconnect
demais.
again
Conte conosco,
after this
viu, para
pandemic. So
apoiar. Nós
wonderful.
não
Count
somos
on
mais
us to
jovens. Conte
support.
conosco para te
We
apoiar
are
com
not
projetos aí
young,
na
but we can
comunidade. Pode se
support
sentir à vontade
you in
comigo. Não fala
projects
nada,
in
mas
your
pode se sentir
community.
à
So
vontade.
feel free for that, okay?
Hein? Mas esse apoio é mais que importante para nós.
But the support is more than important to us
Conhecendo a caminho de vocês,
because
mesmo que a gente
knowing,
vive um momento totalmente diferente do que vocês viveram
so
antes,
even
a gente
we have like different experiences from what we have today, we can continue learning, and then we will learn how to move on because history itself show us because what we lived yesterday it's important to what we are going to live tomorrow. So history is very important. So my dad's history had a different kind of story. So maybe if he could have lived differently, he would be doing things differently, and maybe eventually I wouldn't even be here. So I must be inserted in this context. So interesting, Marilene. Very nice, very inspiring. So it touches my heart, and I believe that everyone's heart is touched as well. So unfortunately, we are getting to the end. So I would like to stay here all night talking to you, but we have to begin moving towards the end. So lots of people are here, like connected in the discussions, and everyone is talking about like the same issues and about the global impact for future generations. So it's the chance that we have to see and move on and improve and make a better future for everyone. So this is what we are all looking for. And this is related to nature as well. So within Brazil decided to have like the pre-launch of a book muito além da paisagem, that goes beyond the landscape, and we will make it available like a chapter, a specific chapter that has been written by Fábio Iscarano, who is a person that I admire. I was his student at the UFRJ, the Federal University in Rio de Janeiro. And then we got connected again, and we became workmates at the Botanical Garden in Rio de Janeiro. He is incredible. So he felt in love about all the complexity with the Atlantic rainforest. And then he is currently taking a doctorate. And then he wrote a chapter about like the future of nature in Brazil. And then it's like the relation as and nature being like a key point. And then we have lots of comments and other people also talking about other topics. And then if you access, you will have access to the chapter of the book, the one that I mentioned. And Amanda, I'd like to repeat something that you all said, and something that you specifically, Amanda, said. So I would like to request, like, leave like a message, like for all the world leaders that are actually concerned about climate change and all the problems related to nature. So people must respect your right. So give a message, and then people will understand that they must respect your own right and how you want to relate to nature. So Marilene, what is the takeaway message? So I would like to tell the leaders, do not forget that leader does not lead for himself or herself. So the leader is ahead representing people who will actually follow their lead. So the message is, do not forget who you are representing. It's not only you, yourself, the people, and for the scientists and people who are trying to make this dream that we have, like keeping our space, like man-nature relationship. So try to express yourselves in such a way that we all understand. So the public that I have here today, but if a young person looks at the video, you know, I'm relaxed, I'm cool, I'm feeling at easy speaking. So the first thing that I ask is that people have difficulties. That many times people were participating in meetings and talking about like the reproduction of the crab, and they were informing and giving. So sometimes they were using like social media and WhatsApp, like showing that crabs were on the reproduction stage. But then they will get to a result that is much different from the one that we have. So we have to provide information that is accessible. So do not forget that when we are working, especially with people, so do not forget your human side. Don't put it on the side. Even if you are a scientist, even if you have the scientific point of view, do not forget that you are working with people, and this is the human nature. So it's very important to convey the message. So this message will reach and people will understand fully. So I can communicate with like different people, but an example, like my dad, so sometimes he cannot understand like the dialogue that we are having. So it's the way the message will reach people. So I am full of emotions. I'm always looking for justice. So I can think that my association is in good hands because I am the one in charge of it. And no, I have to think that you have to be fair. So I'm looking at to what my dad did, and I am someone who everyone knows, but people that knows me in the city I speak freely, and when I have to speak a little bit more formal, I do so. But my normal way of speaking is something like this, because I'm a human person. I'm involved in project, especially with this relation, like man and nature. So this is very important, this human side, because sometimes this is what is putting our whole planet at risk when we leave our human side on the side. So I think about my community, my home, and then if I forget my human side, this is a problem. And when I look at my family's farm and I see the relation, and I think about the human relationship that everyone have, so everything that I want to talk about, like public policies, and I want to communicate, and I want to bring all the knowledge outside of my community, and then people will understand that my human side is alive, and I'm doing my part, and I'm thinking about my community, myself, and the collective, my personal aspects, and more I am making the collective stronger. So this is the message. Hopefully, I communicate myself well. Oh, yes, you have. Very nice. So messages done. So Amanda, brief takeaway message. What is the message for the scientists and leaders thinking about our future? Cool. So the brief message I'd like to say, so we are mobilizing a lot of people, and we are doing as much as we can, and we will have like the Biden summit, and someone said something, and we received a letter and we read it. But when you are working with some situations in Brazil, they are pretty much different. And we talk about our positioning and the people who are like in this living in the outskirts, and something that we also have to keep in mind. So some people file a lawsuit against Brazil because of the weather changes. So when we signed the Paris Agreement, so we had some goals. But then when we have like the different weather agenda, there were other things telling us and stating some. And then like our Minister of the Environment and Foreign Relations, they were there, they were saying, so do not become more ambitious. They reduce the goals, and then they went there just like a poker face, like presenting all those things and looking for support for international organizations. And then this action, so this like 8 former ministers in Brazil positioned themselves against this whole relationship. So we have to think about our own place, and we have to create something that is for us. So I also would like to talk a little bit about results and things that we are currently doing, and we see some of these results, but we need more. So we need more resources, obviously. So I would like to take this space and this opportunity to talk to everyone. So you that assigned the protocol, the document, and Tabakira also, who have more energy and like following up like this youth movement in social media, and see what we are producing in terms of content, and be it related to lobby or climate change, and because this is how democracy works. we have many people that just heard me, did not have any idea that the Brazilian youth was actually participating in the Brazilian policy. I am sure that lots of young people, when they hear this, they want to join us, they want to engage, they want to dive into this universe and make a change. So it's very important to have this support. And the message that I would like to say, you cannot be an environmentalist but being like a racist. So you cannot participate in one sort of a debate because it has been whitewashed. So there is an exercise that we have to promote our view, and you have to conduct like other kinds of conversations in different social groups and different levels of leadership all over this huge country of ours. So most of the situations are related to the weather, climate. Very cool, Amanda. And so this is it. So message given. So you thought that the young people were going to keep their mouths shut? No. You know, like they make very good noise. So Daniela, Luciana, Fábio, Francisco, on the 29th. And then we will continue this conversation. So is it possible to reconstruct this connection between people and nature? So what do you think? So next week, we will have another team promoting a lot of new discussions. So see you next week on the 29th of April. So thank you very much, Marilene and Amanda, for having this wonderful, incredible conversation. So always on the go. So now the final messages.